Hey guys, Stoney Creek here. Seemed like this goat paddock was the never-ending project, but we finally got it done. Let me give you a quick tour. So starting off with, you can see behind me is that gate. The reason we needed to put that gate in first is because we still have this electric fence running. You can see it running down and around. And that joker was a pain to take down every day to begin work out here. So we started this project by installing the post to hold the gate and then putting that gate up. And then that way, you can see behind me, this is a PVC pipe. That's covering a T-post, and that's what we've got our electric fence tied to now. So that way it doesn't ground out to this fence. Oh, just kidding. But that way we could actually get in here and do some work. I want to start out with, this side is 4-inch by 4-inch squares. This is a utility panel. It's 50 inches tall. And it actually runs all the way over there to the barn. And the reason we chose that is because right now this paddock's being used as a weaning paddock. So we've got all of our does in here that was born this spring. Now here next week, I'm going to be putting a 200-pound buck over on that side of the fence. We're going to put a little bit of hot wire on that, but I wanted to make sure that he would stay over there, couldn't jump over here for obvious reasons. That, and I'm going to tell you, I was a little bit lazy. And now the reason I say that is because between that post and my barn is just about 24 feet, and I didn't want to stretch a fence for 24 feet. Then from where this side of the post is to where it runs over in the corner is only about 74 inches, so I wasn't going to stretch a fence that short either. So we wanted to use something rigid, something that's going to hold out big bucks, hold out does that wanted to get with their dolings and that sort of thing, and I figured for what we're doing that would be the best application, nice and rigid. But then the rest of the fence was installed with 2 by 4-inch what's called horse no climb wire. But before we could do that, we actually had to install the post. Let me show you how we did that real quick. As you see, we poured water in the hole. Then I pour the dry concrete mix in. We make sure that it's level. I tamp that thing down, add a little bit more water, a little bit more dry concrete if needed. Then we let it set up a couple of days before we do any pulling of the fence. Now as you can see, we started out with the corner post, and the way we got that was we decided where the corner post was going to be, and then we put 2 yellow strings on the ground, let them bisect, so that way we'd know where everything else was. Now one of the questions I've been getting in the Facebook group is, how do I find a 90-degree corner? Well, let me try to show you that here real quick. Of course, this is our corner post, and we set that first, and then we had a yellow string that went along the ground over, shows where the T-posts are going to be, and this second post. Then the same thing, corner post again, we had that yellow line, and then the same thing, corner post again. We put that string, tied it off over here to a piece of rebar, ran it all the way out to the fence over there, and then you would think that wherever they bisect, that would be fine. But you want to know where how to get a 90-degree corner. Did I have the string that was here out too far? Did I have it in too far? So the way to discover that is actually doing a little bit of math called 3-4-5. A lot of you probably already heard about that 3-4-5 method. I'm going to try to show you how to do that 3-4-5, or try to give you more of a visual representation of that. So again, here we're at our corner post. And imagine just the strings laying on the ground. From this string out, I would measure 3 feet. 3 feet out to here. From this corner post, string on the ground, I would measure 4 feet over here. And then from that 4 feet, I'd take my tape measure and I draw a line across here to where it intersected that 3-foot mark, and that should be 5 foot, or that will be 5 foot. So 3, 4, 5 coming across. If this measurement, this 5-foot measurement, was less than 5 feet, that means your string is too far in. You need to push it out. If your 5-foot mark was too great, or if your 5-foot mark was too great, say it was 5'6" or 5'2" or whatever that is, that would mean that this string needs to move in to make this a 5 foot. And it could be that string over there. You're just going to have to kind of look and decide where your 90 degree is. And then of course, once you feel comfortable that you got your 90 degree on this side, then you would do the same thing down at that end. Make sure that you've got 90 degree. For us, we were tying into an existing fence, so we wanted to make sure it was true perpendicular off that fence. So it's the same thing, 3-4-5, make sure it was perpendicular, and that's how you come up with a good corner. So hopefully that answers question on how to set post. Now in rolling that fence out, you can see one of the first things that we did was tie it to the end post. Let me show you that real quick here. This is what the final product looked like. We wrapped that fence all the way around, and then we just twisted that wire on each one of these wires. And that's what we did to begin with. I did staple this side. This is my anchor post. And then you saw that we stretched it out to the other side. Now what I use here, because you don't want to draw a fence up from laying flat, I use these wire clips. I just made these myself. I use that to hang off the T-post. That way it you won't have as much tension on the wire on the fence as you go to pull it. And then you want to be sure to pull the fence even. I like this 2-point fence puller, and that way I can use my come along on the bottom to give it more tension, or use come along on the top to give it more tension. You'll find that most times your bottom will come into tension a lot sooner than your top will. Then of course, after we got it tight, went ahead and used the little T-post wire clips, wired the fence up from there, and then I went back and stapled it up to the post. Now talking about pulling the fence tight, I forgot to tell you one step that I did on these posts. Let me show you this real quick. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a twisted wire that runs through there. That was put on prior to pulling the fence. I just use a rebar, twist that wire up. What it is, it's single loops of wire that run from the base of the corner post up to right above. This is your spreader post, and it's just a single wire. You wrap it around a couple of times, kind of loop it in here. You have a couple of staples, they're not set all the way in, that you're looping it through. Same thing on the bottom side. Put your spreader bar in here, and that piece of wood is going to stay permanent. Then you use this rebar and you just twist, twist, twist. You want to twist in a fashion that if you were looking up, and I can't really tell it from this angle, but you're going to go counterclockwise on twisting that. You're going to leave a little tail here, and then the long tail is going to catch on the outside of that board. Now the reason you do that is in case you ever need to tighten that post up a little bit more. It's not attached into the fence where you can grab that rebar and you can pull it and tighten that tension rod up a little bit more. Now the reason why it's important to do that, you can see my post is anchored in the ground here, but if I just pulled tension on this, it's still going to have a tendency to pull that direction because that's where my pull's going. A little bit of physics here. So with concrete in the ground here, think fulcrum lever, you want to stop that lever. So I'm putting this wire on the top of this post to keep it from going this way. And I'm anchoring that down to where that post is anchored also with that ball of concrete. Same thing here. You can see my wire goes from the bottom and it goes up here because the tension of the fence is going that way or coming this way, however you want to look at it. But you don't want this post to just pull off, so that's why you have it set like that. So after we got that fence pulled, same application for this fence behind me. Of course, our post was already set. I'd set that up from the gate down at the far side. We'd already set these corner posts up this side. I attached it in the corner right here. I'm going to show you that a little bit here in just a second. And then I pulled it that direction. Now when you're intersecting one of these fences, it's going to be just the same way. This was the fence that we pulled first. Wraps all the way around the post, comes around. We twist it at every point. When the new fence comes in, we're going to intersect this. So we've got a nice corner right here. And then we're going to do the same thing. It's going to wrap all the way around and you're going to twist every spot. And then of course you're going to staple it down once you get that done. Now one of the things I'm going to tell you I've seen on a lot of channels and even some of my Facebook friends, if you're watching this, don't take offense. I'm just trying to school you right now. It does make a difference on where you put your fence and where you put your T-post. And what I mean by that, let me pull this around. As you can see, we've already got goats over here. I want them to stay on this side of the fence. A goat will rub, a horse will rub, any type of sheep will rub along that fence. You want your T-post on the opposite side of where your animals are. So if your animals are on this side, T-post goes on that side. Fence goes on the side with your animals. Now, are there exceptions to every rule? Sure, absolutely. Like one of the exceptions here, I've got goats inside where I'm standing now, but I also will have goats on the other side. So what am I going to do for that? Which side do I put the T-post on? Well, this paddock's going to eventually be used as a working pen. It just happens to be used as my weaning pen now. So I'm going to have a whole herd in here. It's going to be packed. So I'm going to want all those animals to stay right inside this area. But now, for what about the goats on the outside? I'm going to run electric wire. That's going to keep them off of that. But the primary purpose is to keep goats here on this side. So T-posts are on the outside. Just wanted to point that out. Now actually I wasn't going to go into so much detail on how to put up a fence, but I got a few comments asking me to do that from one of my last videos, and then also a lot of my Facebook friends were asking me the same thing, so that's why I've gone into a little bit more detail. But if there's anything I haven't answered, be sure to ask that question. Let me show you a couple more things that I've done in here before we move the goats in. This is just a temporary shelter I've got right here. I used 2 cattle panels, 16-foot cattle panels, 3 T-posts on either side, turned them into a bow, did a tarp over the top of that. I actually used hog rings to tie those 2 fence panels together. And that way it'll be easy to separate because again, this is just temporary. This is one of the phases that I talked about early on in getting this done. Because if you can see that barn behind me, we're going to extend this out. It'll be more like a fancy lean-to than a barn, but we're going to extend that out later on in the fall after we save up a couple more dollars and it cools off. It's been darn hot. So what we've got in here now, these goats were all born this spring except for this goat. She actually broke her leg earlier this week, right at the ankle. So she's in here kind of as a convalescent pen. And then this goat too. This is actually our oldest goat. She's going on 12 years old. She was feeling a little bit under the weather. So we put her in here so she wouldn't have as much competition with the rest of the herd. But she's starting to feel better. She raised twins this year. I think those twins was nursing her down. We'd sold one earlier on this spring. We're keeping one back as a replacement doe for this one because sometimes nature does take its course, and this is an older doe, so we want to have one of her does here's a replacement. But she's starting to perk up. We're pretty happy about that. So looking out, you can see that we removed a lot of that dead wood that was in here. We had a lot of fires, as you can see here, and we pulled out a lot of here's a good example, pulled out a lot of what I call dead standing. And as you can see here, we've got a pretty good start for the firewood this winter. Well, hey guys, I appreciate you watching. I always certainly appreciate your support. And hopefully this will help someone else out the next time that they try to pull a fence. One thing I didn't point out, this is only about 5,700 square feet, 5,800 square feet. So we're looking, I don't know, roughly 1/8 of an acre that this is pulled on. So this would be a pretty easy do-it-yourself project. I mean, obviously I did it myself, but be one of those projects that you don't have to be scared of to do yourself. Be sure to stay tuned. Next time, I'm going to tell you about that hay rack behind me, that little hay shelter and rack and everything, and I'll see you next video.